This is a super short story I wrote in 2014 in response to a writing prompt challenge. Lulu held an old suitcase like it was full of rocks. I narrowed my eyes as I watched her from the kitchen window. What is that girl up to now? I asked myself. See, Lulu was one of those strange girls, like wearing 100 different barrettes because she liked them all and laying down in the middle of the playground because the clouds needed her to tell them what they were as they blew by. It didn't help that all that strangeness was wrapped up in homemade clothing and bad shoes. I sighed and dropped the towel I was using to dry the dishes and ran outside to catch her. It didn't take much, what with me sprinting and her barely able to walk holding that suitcase. "Hey, Cricket," Lulu said as I caught up with her. "Hey, how goes it?" she asked. "Oh, you know," I started and we finished together. "It goes and goes." I paused for a moment. "So, what's with the suitcase?" She looked at me out of the corner of her eye and smiled. "It's a secret." I smiled back at her and kept walking next to her. Okay. We kept walking until we reached Tent City, where all the homeless lived. She seemed to know where she was going, and so I followed Lulu, feeling insecure and weirded out by all the dirty people. I wasn't comfortable in Tent City at all. I must have looked uncomfortable, too, because when Lulu looked back at me, she said, "Don't worry. Trust me, okay?" We stopped in front of a tent with a guy sitting outside. "Hey, Lulu, darling," he said. "Hi, Mr. Williams. I brought you something." Lulu held out the heavy suitcase, and the man took it. "All of it's yours, okay?" The man smiled a big, toothy grin and thanked her. She didn't wait for him to open it up or any more praise. Just spun around and started walking back out of Tent City like it was no big deal. I walked next to her in confused silence all the way back to my house. Lulu's family didn't exactly have the money to be giving stuff away. She shined the whole way back. Not the kind of shine that meant she'd done something important or good, but the kind of shine that she'd gotten as much as she'd given. Finally, I asked her, "What was that about? You don't have the money to give stuff away." She smiled sweetly. "He has nothing, and I have everything I need. Just because I'm poor, don't mean I can't help people." I never looked at Lulu the same way ever again. In fact, I never looked at Tent City the same way again. That was 40 years ago, and I still think about that day. Lulu was always weird, and that was the best part of her. Thanks for listening, and I hope you enjoyed it.